Welcome back to Fitnix in the Kitchen. I'm going to show you a different version of my ketobomb recipe. So my previous ones, if you saw, were more like a fudge squares kind of texture, and it was coconut oil and nut butter kind of melted together with protein. So this one is going to be more like a chocolate cup. So kind of like a Reese's cup. So you need a silicone mini muffin tray, coconut oil. If you're doing peanut butter or almond butter in the cup, then you're obviously going to need that. Whatever extra thing you need. If you want like a peppermint patty kind of thing, then you'll use a 1/4 teaspoon in this recipe of peppermint extract. Other than those little differences, everything else will be the same. So we're going to start with a 1/4 cup of coconut oil. And I just put it in one of these like measuring cups, anything with a little bit of a spout, because you're going to melt the chips in this and then you're going to pour it in the muffin tray after. So we're going to mix it all in this, and then this way it's easy to pour in the tray. So you can do a mix of things. If you're really strict on the sugar, then I recommend doing only the stevia chocolate chips. If you're not too strict on the sugar, you can actually do a mixture of both, which I do. So I do 3 tablespoons of the stevia one and then 2 tablespoons of the semi-sweet chocolate chips. So I'm gonna, and you can be kind of flexible and generous with the tablespoons here. So I just kind of do a big scoop. 1, 2, 3. And then, like I said, I'm going to do kind of a mix of the 2. 1, 2. So 5 total tablespoons of chocolate chips, whichever ones you choose. Again, if you're trying to limit sugar, I do the stevia chocolate chip ones. If you're trying to save money, because they are a little expensive, you can kind of mix the 2. The sugars will still stay very low in the recipe because this recipe makes about 8 to 9 of these cups. So I'm just going to microwave it or melt it. I find 40 seconds to be kind of perfect. I stir it up for a couple minutes and then I maybe put it back in if I need to still melt some of the chips. So you see the coconut oil is fully melted, and then the chips. Now you will have to stir this for a couple of minutes because it's still melting. And then by continuing to stir it, it's just going to keep melting. Once all the chips are melted, then you'll add a scoop of protein powder. I use the vanilla whey isolate, but again, this is where you can get creative if you want some different flavors. And you can always add a little bit more protein if you want. However, I find if you add much more in terms of this size of a recipe, if you add much more than 1 scoop of protein, you might start to get that grainy kind of texture when you bite into it. Now, making sure that you stir in the protein powder for a long time. Let it kind of dissolve all the powder so it's not so grainy. So as I'm stirring it, I just kind of do a little scoop like that to see if there's still some chips there. Now there are, so I'm just going to stir for a little bit longer. And then if it still doesn't dissolve, I'll just put it in for an extra 10 seconds in the microwave. And that should be enough to fully melt it. But it looks like it is pretty much melted there. All right, so very small little chunks still. So I'm just going to put it in for an extra 10 seconds, nothing crazy. So again, you just want the chips to be fully melted. Now, if you were doing peppermint chocolate, then this would be the time. And then with the protein powder is when you would add the 1/4 teaspoon of peppermint extract if you're choosing a mint one, but this version is not going to have the mint. So just 1 scoop of whey isolate. If you're using different types of protein, like a vegan protein or a concentrate, it might be a little thicker. It might be a little harder to dissolve everything. So just keep that in mind. So again, you want to mix this up really, really well. Make sure you get all the powder off the sides and just kind of keep mixing it. Once most of the powder is mixed in, then you can get a little more aggressive with the stirring. Just make sure that there's no grains, no powder. If you have some on the knife, just kind of mix it in. Kind of scratch it off the sides. Make sure it's all mixed in nicely. Now again, you want to keep mixing. Give it time to actually dissolve the powder, because if you don't mix it well enough, again, you're going to get that kind of grainy texture when you bite into it, and that's not so pleasant. So again, this is a super easy, quick recipe. The longest thing is actually it solidifying in the fridge. So, and because it's silicone and this already has like oil in it, it won't stick to the cup. So you don't need to grease it or anything like that. And we're just going to start pouring it in. It doesn't expand either, so you can put it very close to the rim, the top there. Now I am going to add a little spoonful of peanut butter, natural peanut butter to these. So I probably should have left a little room, maybe a little more room, but that's okay. So you see that made just a little more than 8 cups, but it's not even a full cup, that next little one. So 8 cups is about accurate here. Now again, we just want, these are mini, so they're pretty small. If you're taking a full spoon, it's actually a little too much, a little too big. So just make sure to keep it very small little pieces. I just put a little ball like that and just kind of drop it in. Again, keeping it really small. This is probably like maybe half a teaspoon. And just trying to drop it in the middle as best as you can. Now, keeping in mind, if you have any kind of nut butter that's really liquidy and it's in the fridge and it doesn't really solidify, keep in mind that's not going to change. So it might still stay kind of liquidy even though it's in the cups that are going to turn into a chocolate texture. Now again, you can use whatever nut butter you want for this. And what I did with one of my other recipes is I actually just put a couple cashews on top. So again, you can get really creative. You can make whatever you want out of these cups. So you put those in the fridge, let them solidify. And these are a couple ones that I've made. So I made ones with just little cashews on top. And then these are the peppermint ones. I added little Christmassy decorative things on top there. Just little, again, they're like vanilla chip things. So you can get creative. You can do whatever you want with these cups, putting in whatever ingredients, flavors. Again, you can get creative with the protein powders. Very small amount of that peppermint extract, or the ones that we just made. A little scoop of nut butter, like a Reese's peanut butter cup. So enjoy. I hope you like this recipe. Give it a try. It is so quick and easy. The longest part is just waiting for it to solidify in the fridge. Now, if you're in a bit of a rush, you can always throw it in the freezer to make it solidify faster. Enjoy. Stay tuned for more recipes. and subscribe and like the video if you want to see more of these.